Hello. How are you doing? So we added this. We had so many people wanting to attend today and we know the caregivers want to be with their kids because we don't trust that they hear everything that we hear, and we want to know, well, what did they say? And we want to be with them. But what happened was we had so many people coming, we just didn't have the room to have a mom or dad or friend or whatever with every single talent. And so we said, okay, how do we solve this one? And like everything related to today kept morphing. And so last minute we said, let's do a caregivers panel. So I'm a caregiver. I have a 32-year-old son, Josh. And I've worked with all these people. And I think as parents, we want what's best for our kids. And so we try to find the right programs, we try to figure out what their needs are, advocate for them, try to get them to advocate for themselves. But I want you to walk away with one thing. I'm doing this for all of you, and you need to be thinking like that. If you just think about your son or your daughter, then that doesn't change the world. And maybe they get a job, but that doesn't get jobs for other people, and that doesn't change the world. So I want you to just kind of put on a different hat, and instead of just thinking about me and my son, think about us, okay? That's just one little change. The other thing I wanted to say is these people are offering wonderful programs, and I know it's complicated. It's like the worst Milton Bradley game you ever got. To try and read these rules and figure out how they all work, or meet with somebody who doesn't understand your child and their needs, it's really frustrating. But if you learn these rules, if you learn how to make the system work for you, you can really get a lot of mileage. I'm just going to tell my story really quickly with Josh, but it'll just give you some examples. So, for example, COVID hit. Josh had graduated from Cal State Fullerton, and he was bored, and we found AFA Hub, which was a regional center funded Taylor Day program, and so they paid for him in this 2-year program to get a certificate in television film, which allowed him to pull together the knowledge that he had from Cal State Fullerton. And that was paid for by the regional center. Right now, you saw the videos during lunch. My son Josh worked on it. He worked on it doing a paid internship. So he's working for Paul Hemstreet. It's paid for by the regional center, and he's getting experience. He's building up that experience. Another one of our filmmakers is not served by the regional center, and so he was able to do a paid work experience program, which we had to work hard to find it for him. And so he was able to work on his videos and get paid for it. I can't believe that in the background of organizing this conference, I also have worked towards Josh being on self-determination. Why? Okay, first of all, I'm going to tell you a secret. Don't listen. But how many of you work for a living? Okay, it's like the stupidest thing when your boss says, what's the budget for you for next year? What does he always say? What did you spend this year? That's what you get next year, or you get 10% more, or you get 10% less, whatever, but it's all based on that. The same thing is true with self-determination, is that budget is based on what your spend is. So think about that when it's unfortunately a game to figure out how to maximize on these government programs. So think about things more strategically in terms of leveraging things. Anyway, this was a good year for him to do self-determination. Why? Because he's been in AFA Hub for the last 3 years. So his budget is probably the highest it'll ever be. So it's a good time to transition. What are we going to use that self-determination budget? Well, when he's done with this, and he's done with AFA Hub, which dragged on because he was working on this stuff, but we're going to pay for somebody to work with him, Paul Hemstreet, to be a job coach for him and help him with film editing and looking for work. We're going to pay for some money for Zavicon to work with him. We're going to get somebody to help him declutter his house. There's a lot of ways we're going to be spending that money. He's going to learn how to cook. He's going to work on losing weight. There's a lot of things that you can build into your self-determination budget that's based on your child's needs. So I want you to listen to these people and realize that these people are all here to come up with very creative programs to help your child. It may seem difficult, your local office may be difficult, all those things may be true, but if you're smart and you work with them and you work with your child to work with them, then you can really get a lot of mileage and move your child along on that game of life. Okay, so I just wanted to say that I believe in this, and I'm really so glad you're all here. So let's just start off, and I just want you to kind of reintroduce yourself. Some of you haven't been introduced yet. Tania out there, why don't I have you go first? And kind of tell us who you are and how your organization can help these individuals on their journey.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Tania, Morawiec, and I work for the State Council on Developmental Disabilities. This is a statewide organization. We have 12 regional offices, and we work primarily on capacity building and systems change. And we use the self-advocate and the family voice to guide what we focus on. When I talk about systems change, it's listening to what's working in the system, what's not working in the system, and working with others to develop a plan of action to offer insights onto how to evolve it. And again, the root of that is family voices and the voices of self-advocates who have disabilities. How we can help, we do a lot of focus around community integration and achieving goals as defined by the individual who has a disability throughout the lifespan. So we've helped by offering technical assistance across the state to family members or individuals who have an idea that something is just not right. It's not working. So for example, we dive into underserved communities and organizations, tribal territories, underserved, remote rural communities, lower socioeconomic, those who do not have English as a first language, so that they can learn about services. Because the first step is really awareness, and then it's access. And then as you know, and you've seen 21 different regional centers across the state, all may sort of interpret things and do things a little bit differently, though they have guidance and a rule of Lanterman Act to implement. So our 12 regional offices work in the community to listen to the needs of that community and sometimes work as a navigator to build that awareness and then facilitate access if it's not occurring. So for example, we are a grantee of the Department of Developmental Services to offer a statewide self-determination orientation training. And we partner with them to make sure that everybody has awareness and access to this service as an option to meet their needs. And I think you've heard a lot about how it's changing lives and really connecting people to the lives that they want to live. Other things that we've done in terms of assisting, we've worked on legislation. We can sponsor legislation, and part of that was SB 639, which was mentioned as eradicating the use of subminimum wage payment for people who have disabilities and really creating a focus on services like those that you're seeing here, which lead to CIE, Customized Integrated Employment. Let me know if there's acronyms that you don't understand. I'm going to try to avoid them because government officials sometimes speak in an alphabet soup. So that's a little bit about what we do, but really think about lifespan, think about integration, think about personal goals. Everything from emergency crisis intervention and making sure that people have access to behavioral health services to working on educating first responders through CIT, so that those who engage with individuals who have disabilities can approach and discuss in a way that doesn't turn into a more difficult situation and scenario, and helping those first responders learn what services at the regional center they can find, advocating for additional supports, because there's crisis intervention, but then there's also long-term supports and recovery, right? It's helping those in behavioral health learn how to speak plain language and engage in functional strategies. So I'm going to stop there because we do a lot. But what I want you to leave with is we have 12 regional offices across the state, and what we do is informed by the voices of self-advocates and family advocates.
Thank you. Lauren.
Hi everyone, I'm Lauren. I'm the autism specialist at the Department of Developmental Services. and I am a developmental neuroscientist by training. So part of my role is looking at our data, tracking trends with our caseload and service use, and using that to drive or inform our policy. I'm involved in our policy and strategy work around services and supports for individuals on the spectrum. And I also lead our brand new autism services branch. So as of July, we have a branch dedicated to autism at the department. We operate a helpline, so anyone can email us or call the phone number. And if you have questions about autism or services or processes, we will take your call and we will help you out. We also are working on building expertise around the state specific to autism. So we get lots of requests for training in different areas. Recently, we've been doing a lot of training with other state departments around hiring neurodivergent individuals. We've done training for hospitals, some law enforcement agencies, regional centers. I have a really hard time saying no, so anytime someone requests a training, like, I'm there. So that's part of the work that we're doing. And then looking at information and outreach around autism for individuals of all ages across the state. So that's like broadly my role and my area. Our department really broadly serves individuals with disabilities across the lifespan through services and supports, primarily with the regional centers. And those services and supports span, from early intervention services for infants and toddlers, all the way up through our adult and aging services. And so I'll let Michael share, since he's focused on the employment services that everyone's so interested in today. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Luna again. Hopefully you saw me earlier. I'm the chief of the work services section at DDS, so I oversee all of the department's employment initiatives, which includes the paid internship program, our new coordinated career pathways, along with some of incentives out to our providers to focus on employment placements. We have a CIA, competitive integrated employment incentive payment for providers. And then, so we mainly focus working with the regional centers, so we don't get a lot of direct interaction with the parents and the individuals. So it's actually, I love being here because I'm getting that again, and my nonprofit heart is loving being here. And we also, I'm a representative on the California Blueprint team, which is a collaboration between DOR, Department of Rehabilitation, our department, and the Department of Education. Basically, we were brought together that if anyone were to come through one of our doors, how are we supporting that individual in their growth and also towards employment. And I always like to mention I'm a parent of 2 boys on the autism spectrum that are served by the regional center, and then my youngest daughter is deaf. And we even rescued a German Shepherd who was blind. So we were a family, like we were looking for a dog. We said, we're a family of disabilities. Let's just go ahead and get the dog too. And so I definitely have, as a parent, experienced what it is to go through our regional center system. And so it's a lot of the advocacy that I try to do from my position is to come from a parent perspective as well. And I'll pass it to
Maureen.
Hi, everyone. Hello again. My name is Maureen McIntyre. I'm the regional director for the Department of Rehabilitation's, we're called the Van Nuys Foothill District. So it's the valley. It's the whole San Fernando Valley, all the way up to Lancaster and Palmdale, and then we have a Pasadena office. There are about 20 offices just in the LA area alone. So, and there used to be a lot more. But it's a fabulous organization to work for, which is not perfect. I have to say that. So, but I've been working with Michael for a while now on that Blueprint work group that he mentioned with DDS and Department of Education. In my current role, I have this district with the 5 offices. We have a lot of managers, a lot of staff. There's about 100 people right there. But we have 4 different districts in the LA area. There's one in like South LA that's called LA South Bay. There's the greater LA that runs down the middle, like what everybody else calls LA. And then there's Orange San Gabriel. Then we also have one in Inland. So we're everywhere. There's about 85 offices statewide. We're rebranding, as I mentioned. We're going to be changing our name to better match what we do. And that is to remove barriers to employment. We have a dual customer system. It's not just the people that we're serving, we're also serving employers. So we have a whole workforce development section, and that's what they do, is they are there to work with employers. And part of what we do is help them to gain a greater understanding of what it is to have a certain diagnosis or something that's different about them. So we offer this windmills training and disability etiquette training and stuff like that. So we do more than just what you might think. And we also help to fund the independent living centers that are all over. In fact, those centers started in California. So we have a long history as a department of doing things and trying to do things differently. We're doing our best. We're not perfect. So
Thank you.
glad to be here, though.
Okay, you kind of got it started. I just wanted to ask, what other kinds of things are you doing to develop businesses' interest in hiring from this population? So you kind of started, Maureen. Is there anything that any of you could add to that? Michael, anything?
Part of it was funding for this program today, the Autism In Entertainment Conference, and then we received a $10 million one-time funding opportunity that we granted out to 45 organizations throughout the entire state. Every regional center has at least one grant in their service area. And it was really to focus on new and innovative ideas that are outside of what the department normally would do, this is a wonderful example of that implementation. And we do have a series of them that are focused on business engagement, really working with outreach and trainings, along with our new coordinated career pathways position, which is really focused on those individuals leaving sub-minimum wage settings or exiting high school. Part of that customized employment specialist is to be the resource for businesses to ask them, what do you need as a business? What employees do you want? And then helping craft those positions based off of the business need. And Maureen, I know you do more with I believe you call businesses customers, right?
There are other customers, yes, dual customer system. Yeah, so we spend a lot of time with employers as much as possible. We try to speak their language. It is different. I was an employer myself. I had a business with my husband, and I started with this department 40 years ago, and then quit and worked with my husband in his business for like 13 years. Changed my whole perspective on what it feels like to be an employer. It's hard. It's really hard. It's hard in the state of California. There's a lot of laws. It's very difficult. So we try to support them as best we can as a department. I'm also a certified rehabilitation counselor, so I try to look at the whole picture. Not everyone is certified in California. We don't require it in the state to be a counselor, but it does help. And that's 31 years I've had that designation. So I do try to see the whole situation, and that involves the employers as well. So helping to find the right employers. That's the piece that's difficult, though, because you can't force an employer to hire a person.
So how can caregivers help you help their child find employment? So for example, Michael, someone doing a paid internship program, there's not like, pick from this box of jobs available for paid internships. Kind of characterize how those works and how caregivers can help in finding employment for their child.
Sure, I'm going to start with an acronym, the IPP. Are we all aware of IPP, the individual program plan that when you're with your regional center? Invite your employment specialist. Every regional center has an employment specialist, and you can invite them to your IPP meeting. And what you want to be discussing is your child saying, I want to work. The discussion that should be happening is what are your career goals? Where do you see yourself working? The regional centers then will be working with those businesses to find, let's say if we do want to do a paid internship, are doing that business engagement to develop those internships. So it is not just a box. It's not supposed to be a box that says, this is what we have available, take what you need. Those paid internship placements should be in line with their IPP. And if they are telling you, this is what the box we have, please make sure that you're inviting that employment specialist to the meeting and say, we want to make sure that the internship itself is aligned with the career goal.
Okay, I'm gonna see if you guys have any questions. I've got a bunch of things I can ask, and I definitely want to get to some of them, but I also am conscious of that you may have some specific questions for yourself. Do me a favor and don't tell us your life story, but try and keep it, because I've run these things and 20 minutes later you say, and your question is, and we've heard their whole life. But do you have a question? We have a question over here I can see. Yeah, go ahead, Mike, please. Right here, Francis, right here.
Up front.
No, here's Francis.
Thank you so much. It's really encouraging to be here today and to hear from all of you and the direction things are going. Thank you. I'm very grateful as a parent. My question for you is, it's also been very humbling for me now that my son's graduated high school. I thought I knew how to advocate for him, and I thought I knew the acronyms for many years, and I knew the help that was available to him for many years. And now that he's no longer having IEPs and whatnot, I'm finding it hard to understand how all of your agencies integrate and what's available to him. And I keep trying to go to seminars and conferences, and I try to read up on it, and I try to contact, I won't tell my whole life story, my son's representatives for these things.
Fall down that.
Is there anywhere that's just a succinct place where a caregiver can learn how all of your agencies interact with one another and what is now available? Just somewhere I can go for I'm showing my age, Cliff Notes version of what is available.
Who wants that? Go ahead.
I hope that made sense.
Thank you so much, a very good question.
So where I would start is on the Cal HHS website. So they oversee DDS and Department of Rehab, DOR. And what our committee did, our group did, was and it was DDS who did this. They created a roadmap of services, and it shows when this happens, who does what, and we also really involved the consumers we serve in it, so that if something looked good to us, we're like, okay, that might look good to us, but not work for someone else. So people were involved in developing it. It's in Spanish and English, at least. Mm-hmm. So that's a good place to start. We also have these local partnership agreements. So they're between the schools and the regional center and the Department of Rehabilitation. Really, the Department of Rehabilitation, we are boots on the ground. So we work with not just one group. We work with everyone who has these barriers. So, but we integrate well with them. We braid services together. That's what we try to do. When money runs out for one thing, then the other department steps in. We do work together.
So just to expand on that, so the CHHS website is the California Health and Human Services website. It's the overarching agency that governs our departments. And through the California Blueprint, when you go to that webpage, there's a CIE. We talked about competitive integrated employment. There's a link there. And when you click on that link, you will see those couple. One of them is the roadmap, and that's a point-and-click adventure.
Yeah.
It's really like, how old are you? Have you graduated high school? And as you're clicking and answering questions, it'll push through, like, here's how to access services, and here's what's available. But the local partnership agreements, I do want to point out as well, because there's a link to that, local partnership agreements. You can search by your DOR district, by your regional center, or by your school district. Every school district that had a Workability 1 program has to be on this list, but you can start either at your DOR district or your regional center. And all of them have a plan in there that outlines the different services for the departments and how they're working together. So if you're looking for that cheat sheet, I think that is your cheat sheet. It is, all right, who's my district? What is my district responsible for? What is DOR responsible for? What is the regional center responsible for? So I think that's probably might be the closest thing to a cheat sheet we can give you is that LPA.
Sorry, I was
Go
just
ahead,
gonna add,
Tanya, and then I want to add something.
We have those 12 regional offices across the state, and part of what SCDD does is sort of work as a navigator to help people kind of understand the interplay about different divisions of government and where they come in and what they do and when they do it. And if you don't want to rely upon that website, sometimes it's easy to get lost on a website. If you want to talk to a person, call your local regional office. The one here, we have an LA office. Chris Arroyo is the regional office manager there. He's fantastic. He's got a great team. And again, this is lifespan integration stuff. So it could be the CIE blueprint and helping understand job skills. It could be linking to independent living centers. It could be peer support. That is huge. I think it's really important for families to talk to families. I think it's really important for people who have disabilities to interact and engage with others who have disabilities, who can understand and problem solve with them. So we really try to connect as well as help demystify the system, which to some people seems like it should make sense. And sometimes when you dive into it and you look, it's all Greek, right?
Maureen.
So like, how do we better understand the interplay? So call Chris and tell him Tanya told you to say hi.
So I just want to kind of dovetail this from a parent's point of view. First of all, I'm involved in the local partnership agreement in Orange County. And it's an amazing group of people. We meet once a month, and there's people from all the different schools levels. There's, college, high school, community college. There are people from the community, there are nonprofits, there are regional centers, and we make a lot of progress. They hold webinars, they do a lot of things. It's hard because when our kids are in high school, we're part of the school system, and they help navigate us, and they keep kicking us out of meetings, as they get older, but we're there, they're there for us, and they kind of help lead us along. And then what happens is the cliff, right? When they graduate from high school, then there's nobody there, and there's all these services, but it's overwhelming. So Tanya kind of mentioned it. Where do you live?
Orange County.
Okay, I'm in Orange County. Okay, we have the Orange County Asperger's Support Group. And what's really important is to connect with other parents, and we have an educational session once a month. I have Scarlett speaking to us later this year, talking about
She's
SSI.
the regional office manager of Orange County.
Okay.
So you would call the state council in
Scarlett
Orange County.
and she's going to be speaking to our group. So what's important is I'm a younger sister, right? So what do I learn from? I learned not to make any of the mistakes my older sister made and figure out what things she did right. And so it's a lot easier for the second child. So similarly, you can learn from other people on their journey and who have figured, it's one thing to read the website, it's another thing to figure out how do I take that and implement that for me, my family and my child based on their interests, based on who I am. And so really Tanya kind of pointed out about the ability to connect with other families as well. So you're not alone, you need to get to know other people like yourself, and you'll find that they'll help lead you on a faster journey and help you figure out the system faster than trying to do it on your own. Great question. Any other questions? Yeah, right behind you.
Hi. So this is my first attendance. I think this is great.
It's my first attendance too. So.
I'm actually not from Southern California. I'm up north. I actually came from San Francisco. So both my son, who's on the autism spectrum, have services from DOR and also regional center clients. They are. My biggest problem is that I kind of noticed this past year or so, or even during COVID, the services I'm getting from these two agencies, I'm not getting responses from them. So I wanted to know what advice would you give to me when I run into a problem like this. I would be sending them email, constantly following up with supervisors, with a social worker, and I don't get response back. I wanted to know, what do I do at this point, you know? Or I feel like I think they just have so many cases and just not enough people. And I understand that, but at what point, like how long am I supposed to wait?
Who wants that one?
I can take that one. So,
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear you're experiencing that, to start with. There are a couple things I would recommend. One is you can recommend an updated IPP meeting at any time. The regional center has to hold that within 30 days. Sometimes that request can kind of jumpstart the conversation. The other option is you can contact the department, so DDS. We have the Office of the Ombudsperson. You can reach out to them and they can help network with your regional center and find out why the lack of responsiveness is happening. Or you can reach out to the autism branch. You can call me. I will give you my card after this. Yeah, I'm happy to also help reach out and find out what's going on.
Did you want to add to that, Maureen, at all? Or?
I can add that,
Okay, go ahead, Tania.
So in your area, and I saw you this morning, nice to see you again. Thank you for making the trip down here. Sheridan Nicolau is the manager of the regional office that covers San Francisco. When I talked about TA at our offices, oftentimes we have family members or individuals call and we can help kind of facilitate the connection between the local regional center or even the DOR office. Our managers typically have relationships with a lot of the different entities, and sometimes it just involves getting some assistance to reach out and identify that the wait is too long and you have some pressing needs. And again, I'm sorry that you're experiencing that, but in terms of the navigation, well, that's a heavy ring. In terms of the systems navigation and the advocacy, we can support, engage, thank you, and work with you to achieve that, as well as give you key points on the right language to use to prompt action.
And if you're still having trouble, Tania will go with that ring and visit them and make some real changes.
Make some noise. Okay, there was another question. I think the gentleman back there had his hand up before.
Thank you. Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
Are we on her?
Yeah, you.
I'm not a gentleman.
Oh,
I'm a
I'm
woman.
sorry. Oh,
There's a light.
It's low
I
light,
can't
low light.
see. I'm so sorry. You're right in my sunlight.
No worries about that. What I do for a living is work with health systems to try to change their standard of care in diabetes management. And one of the things that I see as a problem is the employers and getting them to recognize the needs of this community and that they are viable to be hired. But if they have, a stuffed animal or a puppet or need a quiet room or, whatever kind of accommodations, I just came off of medical leave and I have accommodations on my job. So what is really like my son couldn't get a job at Macy's in the back putting on tags because he could not matriculate through the interview process. Of course he can do that job. So what is really happening with the employers at the employer level, at the HR level, to normalize this community and get them to recognize them as a viable, money-making, they can make some money. My son would be there every day, on time.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about him at all.
Great question.
There's so many poor employees.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So
not
I'd like-
this community.
I'd like us to get to an answer to that. Thank you so much. Great question. Who wants that one? Debbie. Thank you, Debbie. You're sitting right in this light.
Yeah.
I can't even see.
I'm
But thank you,
blinded, too.
Debbie. Okay.
Well, I would like to say that it starts with all of us. So having been an employer myself, when I wasn't working for the department, I was encouraging my husband to reach out to our department to find people to work for us who qualify. It's going to be a grassroots thing. I think it's actually improved from where we were decades ago because more people have found out they're on the spectrum, and then they realize, well, my kid is too. And then when it comes closer to home, I think that's when people are more receptive. Microsoft is like a huge employer for people with all kinds of barriers because they get it. So, and that's what starts, is making the differences within your own sphere of influence. And maybe you don't have a job for your kid where you work, but maybe a relative does or a friend does who knows your kid too, or knows somebody else. So it is going to make a difference that way. And then we try to build upon that when somebody calls on us to come out and help them. We will come out and do classes or whatever and show them also that there's all those, people are afraid of accommodations. They think they're expensive and they're not. It is what you described. They might just need a little bit more time or carry around something. Pardon me? Yeah.
So what kind, do you want help to come into a business or do you want help?
I'm a salesperson. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So that's like one of the things that Zavicon will do, or probably people from DOR, is that
Yep.
this is a movement, okay? And for me, the movement's starting today. I mean, we've been working on it for a long time, but this is changing the way entertainment companies hire.
Yep.
And I barely got paid for this, Michael. But it's really about all of us reaching out to other people in the organization. And if you're a salesperson, going out and making those presentations, partnering with Zavicon, partnering with your local Department of Rehabilitation office. Get involved and help make that change. Hire someone. Our website was developed by Eric Nakayama, who's on the spectrum, and he's been building our website in 3 hours a week, PIP, paid internship program. And every single piece of that website I had to break down into little tasks, and each time he would get better and better and better at them. So it's about all of us contributing, but I'm glad that you want to be part of it.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of incentives out there that are being offered now, like the PIP. And from my perspective, I've been doing some business consultation probably for the last 20 decades, right? I should have solved the problem. Hasn't happened yet, but what is really imperative is business-to-business consultation and data that's showing the business bottom line benefits of hiring an inclusive, diverse workforce. And when we think about diversity, that includes neurodiversity, it includes race, it includes disability, debunking myths. You talked about accommodations, right? Most of them cost under $500.
Yep.
And the impact of accommodations on the business are both impactful for the individual who has a disability and tend to impact the entire workforce at that business. It increases morale. There's reduction in turnover. There's increase in safety ratings. Universal design is human design, right? So there's some basic tenets that if we talk about them in a different language and develop new business-to-business consultation, which is happening, like I'm gonna take a step back for a second, and you as caregivers or parents may listen to another parent of an individual who has a disability before you listen to someone who doesn't have a child, or maybe doesn't have a child who has a disability. You may say, okay, your perspective, what you've gone through, like you'll listen to everyone, but you may be more connected to a person's lived experience. I think employers in many ways are the same way. And it's not just big employers. Microsoft is awesome. And as we talked earlier, they do a lot of stuff, but it's around AI and tech, and not necessarily throughout the entire workforce. For this to work, for customized integrated employment to work, we need to understand a person's skills and abilities and tie them to a match that is in a needs sector for an employer. And that, raise your hand if you worked in a job you didn't like. Did you last long? Were you a happy person? Raise your hand if you worked in a job you loved. Sometimes it doesn't even feel like work, right? So we want the same thing for people who have disabilities. We need the skill set to help determine what that is, and not just at transition. I'm talking from like get-go, young children. What we saw up here today was really disheartening when we had a young gentleman who owns his own company. I mean, he was younger than me. I don't know how old he was. I don't want to be ageist, but he seemed pretty young. And he was told, he and his parents were told at a very early age that you will never work. You will never go to school. You will never graduate. So part of the systems change that you're talking about, and though we're talking about careers and employment here, the advocacy and the debunking and revolution systems change needs to start with the medical professionals, needs to get into the schools with the IEPs. We need to be setting expectations around performance and careers, not just like a job. And speaking of that, we all need to start somewhere, right? Like I was Santa's little helper, I swept up floor at a shop, you know, like, it's okay to have an entry-level job. It's not okay to spend your life in an entry-level job because you've never been given the opportunity or people have assumed that you can achieve nothing outside of that. Yeah. So these are all kind of elements, and I'll step off this little soapbox I have here, but I just wanted to let everybody know that the data is really important. Change is happening. There's a lot of incentives. We're looking to partner. This is a step in the right direction, and the more employers that we bring in and the data that we have around those business bottom line benefits at small to large employers, because most of the hiring in the nation right now is going on in small and medium-sized employers, not the giants.
So I just want to dovetail
Shut
that
me up for a minute, I know, I'm sorry.
I know.
She's had her hand up for
I know,
quite
but
a
I
while.
just wanted to say one thing. Is one of the things that we wrote about for this particular grant, for this particular conference, was the idea of I'm a marketing person, the verticalization, that there's a good brand for autism in high tech. And so if your kid graduates from college with a degree in computer science, they have a better chance of finding a job because it's a high growth area, but also because they're accepting of people on the spectrum in that. And and so what we were arguing is taking a vertical approach and saying, okay, now let's look at entertainment. You can look at somebody doing a software development and look at someone doing animation design, and you couldn't tell the difference from looking at them in a picture. So really, I think part of the reason we might have been chosen was looking at that and looking at different ways of influencing it. Okay, so I'm done with my soapbox. Next question. Who did you say had her hand up?
She's in the middle.
So to that end,
The one in the middle?
And then you.
I'm
in
back
the
here.
middle
So
with-
to that
no,
end, we
she's-
are here because we would like our children to pursue their dreams of having a career in entertainment. So I've contacted my service coordinator after the 12th call. She's finally gotten back to me, and we've got the employment specialist, and we name our child's goals. My son wants to be an actor and paint sets. So we ask for a paid internship with DDS. In practicality, what does that look like? What kind of paid internship can you help our kids find in entertainment?
It's really, sorry, I just make sure your question was done. So that is the responsibility of that regional center, to be reaching out to those businesses and say, we have an individual who's looking for an internship, we believe would be a good match for you, let's have a discussion. And asking, hopefully getting those business connections. I think this is actually a great opportunity with our regional centers here today to develop more business connections. So really what it looks like should be in line with what your child wants to do.
I'm just going to say, as a parent, all the paid internships Josh has been involved in, we helped them find. Anyone I know, it's not them working for us. They have a lot to do just to keep the programs going, to meet with all the people. If you're expecting them to come to you and say, here, Tyler, here's the perfect job for you, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You have to go and meet with the Chance Theater in Anaheim and talk to them and say, hey, would you do a paid internship? It won't cost you anything, and Tyler could help with doing something related to acting in the theater. It's about us. We have to do more ourselves to help, because these guys don't have enough. We already heard that they're not responding to calls. They don't have enough time to find a job for your son. You're going to have to do it yourself. You may want them to do it. I know. It's a team, it's teamwork makes the dream work. So, We all know we've been on that team. You've been on Team Tyler for a while. Okay. Did you want to add anything to that? Because I want to call him.
I just wanted to know, like, what are the practical steps?
Okay, Tania wants to say something.
Yeah, and so the way that I've seen it happen across the state would be, say your son says, I want this job. They put it on the IEP, or they put it in the plan. They connect him with an employment specialist. There should be vendorized job developers at the regional center that they can connect with. That job developer would be working with your son to say, okay, what are you interested in doing? What are your skills? Where do you want to work? How are you going to get there? How many hours do you want to work? And then examining in the community what types of matches are there. And Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is kind of, I don't work for DDS, I don't work for a regional center, but this is the way that I've seen it work. And then the family, through something, if it's customized employment, and others, it could be a teacher, it could be a best friend, it could be a cousin. Everybody who knows your son would get together and say, okay, skills, abilities, who do you know? And then facilitate with that job developer, okay, our son wants to do this 8 hours a week, this far from home, on public transportation, not on Sundays because he goes to church, and this, and this. And then they would work together to see what their connections are, and sort of through that process of discovery, kind of identify what a good fit would be. And then through that, ideally, somebody is working with your loved one to help them represent themselves, right? Like self-advocacy, letting the people that they're interviewing with hear what their interests are. And if they use a communication device, then that's programmed to share that information for them. What I've heard from employers is their biggest pet peeve is when somebody comes in and speaks for the job seeker. And it can be challenging, right, because you want to articulate the strengths. You may know somebody the best, but employers don't understand it. And they don't want that buffer between. So that's the way it should be happening. Sometimes it doesn't happen that way. I've heard across the state that a lot of regional centers aren't necessarily finding service providers to do customized employment in the best way possible. What DDS has done to step in and try to fix that is they've literally offered to pay for customized employment training for supported employment professionals so they can appeal to employers' business bottom line, speak that language, do the job match the right way. And that's huge, because if you have an unskilled person trying to support somebody in finding a job outcome, that job outcome probably won't happen. But yes, parents are often involved and can be that linchpin with their connections, but nobody can do it alone. Like, I definitely want to say that. It's DOR, it's DDS, it's parents, it's the job seeker, it's the employer.
But if I'm hearing correctly, I just want to make sure that it's up to the parent to support their child in finding what they like.
They won't say that. They won't say that. They'll say they'll help. They'll say that they're going to do all this stuff for you. But the reality of me talking to thousands of people in Orange County every year is it doesn't happen a lot.
Right, and that's what I want to.
But that's not what they're going to tell you. They're going to tell you they're going to help you. They're going to tell you all this stuff. But that's why you go to the support meetings and you find out, well, how did Josh get that job? And how did Josh Bass get the job working for Disney? And how did that happen? And you'll hear how it happened. And I can tell you, they'll help you get a job in entertainment. It'll be working at the Regal Theater. They won't help you get a job working at Disney in the animation department. They'll help you get a job. You know, it's just the reality of who they're talking with. They're not working to create the customized job for your kid. And so they're working on a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of cases that they need to close. And so you may want them to do exactly what they say they're going to do, but if you're not actively involved in helping make it happen, since our kids are looking for a very specialized area of work, you're going to be disappointed, and you can sit there and blame them and call up her offices and all that, but rather than work as a team with them and say, I know this is kind of difficult, what can I do to help? So I know that may not be what you want to hear, but okay. Yeah. In practicality, it's meeting with them, it's finding out what the gaps are. They have a lot of people to help, maybe with training or with building skills resumes and things like that.
Can I just say one thing too? It doesn't matter if like your kid's on the spectrum or something. well, don't you want to help them anyway? I mean, most of the parents I know, and we're talking all realms in my life, they help their kids, and those kids are lucky.
It's networking.
It's
who
networking.
you know.
They're very lucky because not every parent can or wants to do that either, but it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's about using your connections, helping your child or someone else's, and then that's the way it works. But we do the best we can, and I was hoping that my people that were here today were gathering the information they need to make the right connections for people.
Well, and that's why, this is about entertainment, and that is a specific need.
Yes.
It's very hard to get into. So, it's not that none of us parents want to help our children do it or go out and look for those opportunities, but it's already hard enough to break into as it is.
Yes.
Having people who are not in the entertainment business go out and find opportunities for our children.
Okay, I need to move on to somebody who's had her
She's had
arm
her
up
hand up
forever.
for a long
Yeah, right. This.
No,
Oh no, she's
had her
had
hand
it
up
longer,
for the whole
so
time.
we'll get a mic to her. Sue, thank you.
Hi. This is really important conversations because California is such a huge state. And we think of entertainment as being here in this region of California, but it's really everywhere. And going out and learning what we've learned today as parents and going out into our respective, like the one lady that was here, she's like, did you know there's 300 toy makers here in this area of California? And I'm like, I had no idea. And it never even occurred to me that anybody would look for a job in toy making. Kind of thing. So I really kind of wanted to answer your question over here. In addition to everything that they told you, go to meetings. Go to your board meeting of your regional center.
Yes.
The people that can help you are going to hear your story, and they're going to help you figure your stuff out. Go to your self-determination local advisory committee meetings, just because that's where you're going to learn about resources as well and what they're doing to help facilitate that. I'm from Kern Regional Center, and I serve on the Self-Determination Local Volunteer Advisory Committee meeting. And this past week or so, a couple of weeks, we've had the purchase of service disparity meetings. I traveled 1,000+ miles to go to all the English-speaking meetings to meet parents. Nobody came. So, and part of my complaint to my regional center was, I look for this stuff and I have a hard time finding it.
Yeah.
So be involved. They feel like they're handing, and we keep asking, and there's no collaboration. So they're here to help us. Our regional centers are here to help us, but they're doing all that they can without input from us. And, the other thing I wanted to add is the lived experience and what Jorge was talking about earlier. You get your stripes, and eventually you become a panther. Some of the stuff can't happen for our kids until it's time.
You know what? We're about out of time.
So
No, I know.
We could talk for hours.
I know we
Right.
could talk for hours. So I know that there are a lot more questions. What do you guys want to do? We can. Can we ask his question? Okay.
No, it's fine. If you guys are done.
No. Go ahead, ask your question. Why don't I take two? Can I take two more questions?
Go ahead.
Hey, Matt, can I take two more questions? He says, okay. All right. Question.
All right. My nephew just graduated college last year, and he's looking for a job in entertainment. I'm trying to help him. I'm a producer of reality, non-scripted stuff for the past 22 years, and I've had a difficult time trying to get him work. I even had a difficult time trying to get work. As we all know, this business right now is in a major, major seismic shift. Yeah. So thank you for putting this conference on, but we are in a very difficult time right now in my business to find jobs just for everyone. So one suggestion to the lady back there is that you need to pound the pavement, like hard. If you want your son or daughter to be involved in any kind of entertainment, you have to go to the sources, whatever it is, emails, phone calls, walk up, knock on the door. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to shift my business away from just sticking to non-scripted and trying to do more social media, use my production skills, my writing skills, my directing, producing skills, and trying to develop my social media company. Is there anything on your department that could help me like hire my nephew as
Yes.
a part-time editor
Yes.
that I go shoot and direct and I could pay him, because as a fledgling company, I can't afford that.
Mike,
That's, I guess, that
You
question
want to
too.
talk about the paid internship program?
I mean, that's exactly what our paid
Okay.
internship program does. So it's that 1,040 hours per year per the internship. So that's, if you do the math, it's about 20 hours a week for
Okay.
1 year. So that's where we're covering the wages, and then we're also covering the employer costs.
Okay.
And then also the employer of record could either be the business, a financial management service, or the provider that's providing the supports. Once they get into an actual, if they get hired on,
Yeah.
the providers can do those job coach and can be going with them. And the idea of the job coach too is not that they're there for the rest of their life. It's a
Sure.
phase out. So they may be there for a longer intervention time. Let's say it could be 100% intervention where they're there with them the entire day. Then as they gain job mastery and as they understand the job better, we phase out that support until they're independent and ready to go. And then we also, for those providers too, there's incentives for them to get those.
So it's a
placements.
small business, doesn't have to be an LLC, it doesn't have to be incorporated or anything like that.
And I would go to Zavicon and they could help you navigate it. Right now
Okay.
they have a grant, they've got another grant
Okay.
to help small businesses navigate the PIC process. And so that's what my son's doing.
Yeah.
He's working with Paul Hemstreet, but Paul doesn't have to put him on his payroll. The payroll is with another third-party organization, and he can work 20 hours a week.
Just one last note on that, just so everybody knows, in the business right now, in non-scripted, scripted, I'm not sure, I'm going to say scripted, but most of these companies that do these shows, reality shows, go on production for 6, 4, 3, 2, 1 month, period. They're not a full-time Disney
Right.
studio. So that's why one reason why they'll never hire like my nephew, because they don't have the time to interview. They don't have the time to set a quiet room. They don't want to be bothered. Most of our producers, I don't speak for everybody, but my 23 years of experience, I've been hired 5 times because I was the first person to show up. And because I was the first person that knew me. I hired you because I got hired, that person got hired Monday, and then I got hired that Monday night, and I started Tuesday. That's how a lot of reality shows start. So it's very difficult to break in, first of all, and it is who knows you more than who you know. So it's a little bit combination. It's a very
Thank
difficult
you.
business, but thank you.
Thank you.
Can I add one more thing? That's one thing I forgot to mention. Oh,
Yeah.
Judy, real
Yeah.
quick, can I add one?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
do want to point out one. So for the paid internship also, we do say it's about 20 hours for the year, but it doesn't mean it's only 20 hours per week. It's really based off their ability and what they want to work. So it can be full time because you know what, I've got this shoot for 3 months, I'm going to be working the 40 hours a week, and I'm going to get to maximize my internship. And also, the internships can be used for micro enterprises and self-employment. So as the individual is developing a business that they may want to do on their own, so it's a big gig-based economy, you got to be able to build your market. The paid internship can be used for micro enterprises and self-employment.
Okay, we have one more question, and then I'm going to wrap up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Sarah.
Thank you all for being here. The fact that you're here tells me that this community of autism in entertainment is important to your agencies. So thank you so much for being here. Mom, thank you for your question, because what you're saying is what we're all being told, and in reality, that's not the experience. And when I hear someone push back on you that you need to do more work, I know you meant it as a partnership.
I meant it as advice.
Let me just say, though, you've been in the cut for a long time doing that work, and you're looking to them for resources. Sir, you got a $10 million grant. Why don't we have a job board that Mom can go to look through potential opportunities? The fact that it's being put back on the parents to do that, pound the pavement and do that work. Well, we're all here very fortunate to be able to take a day, a Friday, and be here with our children. So it's the economically disadvantaged folks, the parents who aren't able to stomp the pavement, who need you all and a portion of that $10 million grant to step up with some technology and some additional services to support their children. That's all.
Okay, I'm going to wrap up.
Can I
And
ask
thank.
one question that
Yes.
might help this conversation?
Yes.
Are there, and I'm in the entertainment industry, I'm in animation, I've been in it for a really long time. There's got to be some advocacy groups, and if there isn't one, we'll start one. There's got to be across gaming and animation, which are really closely connected. I saw a lot of interest today from the community in those two sectors, that there has to be a way to connect to the advocacy groups in the industry. There are small groups that I'm happy to help connect the dots around this that can help mom and you guys bridge that gap between the network and what the gentleman was saying is absolutely right. You get hired because you're the guy or woman that was there Wednesday morning, not because you're the best. It's the day we need somebody that you're a viable candidate, go, and we have to go today. Like that kind of energy, which what this industry actually runs on, this idea of a job board. There's a Venn diagram here where all this does kind of come together. It's really hard for you guys to do what you do, running day to day, and to somehow get connected into this, siloed, insular industry. Really hard for mom who maybe doesn't have anyone that she knows in her community or in her network to know how to penetrate that. There's got to be a way to partner with people who are in the industry, who want advocacy, that can run these sort of.
And that's why we're all here today. And that's why I asked for a grant for Autism in Entertainment to bring us all together and to get people like you to be part of this movement so that we can change the world. Exactly what you described. It doesn't exist. When I introduced this idea, people glommed on because it was like a guy in the desert who was thirsty being given a glass of water. All of you need this. Stephanie and I may be debating how you get something done, and I love Stephanie. We're not in total disagreement. I'm just saying what works. But yes, we all want help. It's hard. It's hard raising a kid on the spectrum. Every single step of it is hard. It's hard getting them into ABA services. It's hard figuring out how they're going to survive middle school without being beaten up. It's hard getting them to want to go to college after they've been beaten up. It's hard getting them to get out of their room and stop playing video games and meet people. It's hard. And it's not easy, but it's a growth opportunity for us personally to do that.
Can I add two things? I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead, Tania.
Okay. In terms of the job board, it's a great idea, but that fast response is imperative, right? 80% of jobs are unadvertised. You need to be there at the right moment, networking. 60% come from networking itself. And then I want to dispel something, because I think it is the job of the job developer and the service provider that is funded by the regional center who's doing customized employment the correct way to beat the pavement, knock on doors, do that job match, and help facilitate. And it's a partnership with the person who's like, we're not just gonna and I've been a job developer, and I think it's really important because I was the person knocking on Edelman's door and other businesses and organizations doing the research, so I went in, spoke the vernacular, and didn't look like an idiot, right? I had to educate myself so that I knew their terminology and what their requirements were, and then I was the middle person. But I think job development providers, if they're doing their work the right way, are out there doing the job match, engaging employers, and finding that match in partnership with the seeker, the parent, if they're involved. Sometimes they're not involved. So it's not all on the parents. It definitely, and I understand what you're saying, they need to be a part of the puzzle, but the job developer and their skill set is imperative. They're hard to find, and we don't pay them anything. So they don't stick around very long because they can't pay their bills. So that's another part of the whole systems change, right? If you want somebody good in that job that's going to put the time in to learn the vernacular that's tied to an interest of an individual, do the job match, be upskilled, DDS is doing their part in saying, we'll pay for them to learn this. You know, like we will help them be great at this job because this is the best thing going on right now in customized employment. But those systems issues sort of trickle down to a lot of foundational things. But I don't want you to think that you're supposed to do it all on your own. It's not all on you. It's part of everybody's job, and if it's working well and we can hire that skilled person to be kind of that matchmaker and educate themselves to be the connector and build the business practice communication, I think this can be successful, and a lot of things have changed even in the past 10 years. I'm not saying it's perfect.
Okay. First of all, I always said you need to work with these people, so it wasn't all on the parents, but you need to work with them to be a team. Yes. There were things we didn't talk about. We didn't talk about benefits, right? We didn't talk about fear of losing. I'm working on a project with Scarlett, who works for Tania, on fear of losing benefits if you do work. So you don't know if they're going to be successful, and do you want to lose your benefits if they're not going to be fully employed? We didn't talk about that. We didn't really talk about so many other topics. So I think this conversation needs to continue. We'll do some webinars on this. I wanted to wrap up just two things that I'd like you to tell us. What did you learn from today? And if you could say one thing to the caregivers about what they should do to help their child in the entertainment space, what would it be? Since Tania's been talking a lot, I'll start with Maureen.
What did I learn? Wow.
What did you learn today?
I learned a lot about what types of jobs there are out there. I mean, I'm not very familiar with this entertainment industry very much, and I'm just amazed. And I think that it's a really, I could see why people want to do this. I really can. What was the other part?
And the other part was one thing you would suggest caregivers do moving into the
well, have a plan. Have a plan with a backup plan, because the benefits thing is huge. We have benefits planners, work incentive planners, and they work with you. And I pushed and made sure that we can see them at the beginning of a plan. You don't have to wait till you're working or almost working, because that's very scary. And it's a reality. You have to know how to report so you don't lose your benefits and medical and all that.
Thank you so much, Maureen. Michael.
One of the things that I know the review team really was excited about for this particular conference was the fact that it was a two-way street, not only for the individuals to access the jobs of the businesses, but for the businesses to come here and show their interest as well. I absolutely agree that businesses, I can probably speak to a room full of businesses and they're not going to care because I'm not one of them. This was a really wonderful opportunity for the businesses to come out and say, I am interested, yes, and let's get people going. So what I learned is just more excitement and hope that the industry is opening up and the industry wants this, and that this will continue to grow. I would encourage all the caregivers to be paying attention to the stakeholder events that the department is putting on. We do have an employment work group that tries to meet every other month, if not at least once a quarter. And we're talking about what's happening in the employment workspace. We're talking about what DDS is offering. We're going over the stats of how the work we're doing, and we have, on our panel, we have providers, and we have regional centers, and we have self-advocates that are talking to the department. The department is listening to what is happening out in the community, and if there are particular players, and especially in the business world, that wants to speak to us and tell us what they need so that we can better craft our services, look at those stakeholder events, come to those employment work groups and put your questions in. We are following up and we are responding to them. So please pay attention to all of the events that are happening with the DDS.
Thank you. Lauren.
I think I've been absolutely blown away by just the interest, just how many people showed up for the conference today, and how there were so many individuals who were at capacity, and there were even more who wanted to come and participate and learn. And so that, I think, was just really eye-opening for me. I'm also hearing that there maybe still some barriers or gaps at the implementation of some of the programs that we've been talking about. And so I really do strongly encourage you to participate in some of the work groups Michael mentioned, and also that master plan that I mentioned in our presentation earlier. This is your time to share your input, your feedback, raise your voice. If your experience is not aligned with the Lanterman Act, which is that your loved one is entitled to services to support their individual goals, so that they're meeting their plan for their lifetime. If that's not happening, I really encourage you to come to the master plan meetings, email the email account that's on the HHS website, and say that. And if you have ideas or vision for how the system should be functioning, like, this is the time. I mean, we have a really huge opportunity, and it's a short time. We have this year to do it. Please, I know you are all doing a lot. You're already advocating way more than you probably should be, and you're probably tired. But I mean, if you can take a little bit of time to share your voice and your experience and your thoughts and ideas, I really, really encourage you to do so.
Tania.
What I know is that the system doesn't always work the way that it's designed to work, and that there is some justified outrage in this room. So I hear it, and it resonates with me. What I would suggest, this is a really hard industry to break into. It's hard to get jobs when you've got a pedigree and experience that goes back a decade, and you know a lot of people. So you've got to be resilient. You've got to be able to know that one more failure gets you closer to success, and help build that in your loved ones, and help them connect with others in the industry that are dealing with failure, so they can, like, buoy on top of it. I think I used the wrong word, but the gentleman that was up here before said something about, you know, the salsa that drips out of your success taco is failure, right? Like, it's gonna happen. So just try to embrace it and move forward with some positive things. Thank you for your energy. Please, talk about the challenges that you're having, so we can come together and figure out a way to expedite a solution, because those services aren't always being implemented as designed and intended. So we need to know about it when that's happening.
Tania, Lauren, Michael, Maureen, thank you for being here. These are people that make a difference. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. You should applaud for yourself. You're on an amazing journey. Join us. And let's help change things, because these are all human beings. The people that you're trying to get help from are all human beings. And if we can all connect and work together, then we can build change, because their hearts are in the right place. It just may not be their calendar is in the right place. So thank you very much. If you want, the exhibits are open, and there's some people from DOR and Regional Center there, as well as Zavicon. So if you want to kind of figure out how to do a PIP, you can talk to them. If you're interested in going to the acting session, they're in Magnum. It's a huge hall, and they've got, the next session is voiceover acting. So thank you so much. We'll see you in a little bit.